Breaking news! Celebrate! The Philadelphia Eagles just pulled off a bold comeback that could shake up the entire wide receiver division. And no, it's not a blockbuster, but rather a calculated and intriguing move with huge potential. I'll tell you all about it in a moment. But first, make sure you've hit the like button if you agree that the Eagles will win the next Super Bowl again. If possible, right? Go Eagles! Let's go to the Super Bowl again. Now, let's get to the news of the day. The Birds have signed wide receiver Terrace Marshall Jr., a name that may not come as a surprise at first glance. But when you look at the context, potential, and history, this could be decisive for the 2025 roster. And this move? It's classic Howie Roseman low risk, very high ceiling. Terrace Marshall Jr., at 6 feet 3 inches and 200 pounds, is a physical phenomenon. He was a key part of that iconic LSU championship team, with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson, 3 names now consecrated to NFL stardom. Despite being behind future All-Pros, Marshall still managed to throw 23 touchdowns in his last 2 college seasons. Coming into the 2021 NFL Draft, his pre-draft expectations were real. His size, his athleticism, everything pointed to a top player. In fact, the Eagles supposedly had their eye on him at the time, but it was the Carolina Panthers who took him higher in the 2nd round. Now, here's where things get messy. Since being drafted, Marshall's NFL career hasn't exactly popped. His best season? Just 28 catches, 490 yards, and 1 touchdown in 2022 with Carolina. After that, things spiraled, released by the Panthers, bounced to the 49ers practice squad, then a brief, forgettable stint with the Raiders, where he managed just 3 receptions for 41 yards. On paper, that resume screams camp body, but this isn't your average camp body situation. Here's why Eagles fans should care. Philadelphia might see something others don't. And with this team's history of mining value from under the radar, high upside athletes on 1-year deals, especially players they were high on during the draft process, it's not hard to believe they have a plan. Last year, they kept 5 receivers, A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, and a mix of developmental or specialty players like Britton Covey and Johnny Wilson. Covey's gone, likely replaced by Avery Williams, and that leaves 1 wide receiver spot up for grabs. Marshall's path to making this roster is not just possible, it's realistic. The real battle here is shaping up between Marshall, Johnny Wilson, and Anaya Smith. Wilson, despite being a 5th-round pick, barely saw the field and struggled as a pass catcher. Smith's role is still being defined. But Marshall, physically, he's got the edge. If he puts it together in training camp, it's not crazy to imagine him stealing that 5th wide receiver spot. And if he thrives under the guidance of this coaching staff, it could force some real questions about the futures of guys like Janarius Dodson, who's entering the final year of his deal. This isn't just a potential depth move. It's a test case for whether the Eagles' coaching, system, and culture can turn around a career that once held so much promise. And the timing matters too. As the NFL draft looms just 2 weeks away, it's not out of the question that teams call Philly about Dodson, maybe offering a late-round pick in exchange for a proven but underused receiver. If that happens, the door flies wide open for someone like Marshall to rise. But that's not the only development that has Eagles fans buzzing. Texas A&M edge rusher Nick Scourton, yes, that massive, athletic force, was just in town for a top 30 visit. This kid is 6 feet 4 inches, 280 pounds, and stands out even when standing next to Brandon Graham, one of the most physically imposing players on the Eagles. Scourton posted 5 sacks and a forced fumble in his lone year at Texas A&M, making the All-SEC team. He's raw, sure, but the tools are undeniable. Sound familiar? It should. It's the same formula we saw last year with Juke Hunt, who exploded into one of the Eagles' top edge rushers by the end of the season. Scourton screams 2nd-round pick for the Eagles. He might be too raw for a 1st-round investment, but Philly, with 20 picks across the next 2 drafts, has all the ammo in the world to maneuver up or down and get their guy. Don't be shocked if he's one of those day 2 steals who walks into a rotational role and becomes the next Vic Fangio project turned success story. Speaking of Fangio, there's another layer here with the potential signing of All-Pro safety Justin Simmons. There's a ton of smoke around this, and where there's smoke with Howie Roseman, there's usually fire. The Eagles have the cap space, over $23 million, and Simmons reportedly wants to play under Fangio again. It makes perfect sense. Simmons would not only provide immediate impact but also serve as a mentor to Sidney Brown, much like Fletcher Cox did for Jalen Carter or Jason Kelce for Cam Jurgens. A 1-year deal around $5 million? That's pocket change for Philly, especially with Simmons still having all-pro upside. The overarching theme here? The Eagles are loading up on 1 year, prove-it deals with guys they loved during the draft process but couldn't land. They're betting on themselves, their culture, their coaching, and their locker room to turn these players into assets. And honestly, with Vic Fangio in the building and an elite core already set, it's not a bad bet. The draft strategy also hints at something bigger. The Eagles have had just 20 of their top 30 visits completed, and very few of those have been surefire first-rounders. That screams trade-back scenario. Don't be surprised if Philly slides out of the 32nd pick altogether, adds more day 2 ammo, and snags multiple players in that deep 15 to 50 talent range. We're seeing this same pattern in visit behavior. Guys like Scourton and TJ Sanders being prioritized. It's strategic, it's efficient, and it allows the team to stay flexible. And with all the chatter around quarterbacks like Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe rising up draft boards, there's a ripple effect. The more QBs that go early, the more top defensive talent drops. That's how you end up with guys like Quinyon Mitchell falling into your lap, and that could happen again this year. So Eagles fans, what do you think about the Terrace Marshall Jr. signing? Is this another low-risk move that fizzles? Or could we be looking at a potential breakout story in 2025? And what about Nick Scourton? Would you spend a second-round pick on him? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's get the debate going. And let's stay locked in on this draft storyline because it feels like the Eagles are setting us up for another classic Howie Roseman curveball. We've seen it time and time again. When everyone zigs, Howie zags. And with the current trajectory of the draft visits, it's becoming more and more obvious that the Eagles are either playing a serious long game of misdirection, or they're locking in on a trade-back scenario where they can scoop value talent and stack their roster with quality depth. Now, there's an interesting wrinkle here that not enough people are talking about. The Eagles' top 30 visits don't include a lot of high-profile, guaranteed first-round players. That's not just random. That's intentional. Historically, the Eagles' first-round picks almost always came from their top 30 visits. Anthony Diana's detailed analysis shows this pattern clearly. So if Philly isn't bringing in those obvious top-tier names for visits, what does that tell us? One of two things: either they're planning to trade back and load up on early second-rounders, or they already know exactly who their guy is and are keeping that info under deep wraps. Think about it. Sitting at pick 32, the Eagles are in the perfect spot to let the board come to them. If the right player slips, maybe a top 15 guy somehow drops into their lap, you take him. But if not, you move back 5 to 10 spots, pick up an extra pick or two, and still land someone like Mike Green, the edge rusher from Marshall with monster sack numbers, or a second-tier safety to fill that hole if Justin Simmons doesn't come through. And that's another thing. Philadelphia is keeping its options wide open at safety. The Justin Simmons situation is sitting there like an obvious move waiting to happen. We've talked about how the Eagles tried to go after Justin Reed before, and Simmons makes even more sense. He already knows the Fangio system, he's got the all-pro pedigree, and more importantly, he brings the leadership and mentorship you want for a guy like Sidney Brown. A 1-year, $5 million deal with incentives is very doable for Philly right now, and the signing would check off a huge need without burning a draft pick. So what do you think, Eagles fans? Will Terrace Marshall break through and finally realize his potential in Philly? Is Nick Scourton the next gem for Vic Fangio to polish? Should the Birds go all in on Justin Simmons, or wait to grab their next safety in the draft? Sound off in the comments below. We want to hear your thoughts. This is your team, your offseason, and your chance to shape the conversation.